Welcome. Today, we're diving into a really powerful story about managing stress, and more importantly, giving ourselves the one thing we almost always forget, the permission to just relax.
So let me ask you this. Ever feel like you're just stuck in your own head? With that constant loop of worries playing over and over, where it feels like your own mind is your biggest obstacle? If that sounds at all familiar, trust me, you are so not alone.
To really get to the heart of this, we're going to follow the story of a college student named Emma. She's navigating a brand new chapter in her life, and like so many of us, she's feeling all the pressure that comes with it. Her journey is actually a fantastic roadmap for how to get out of that cycle of stress. All right, so let's dive into Emma's struggle. We're going to start by really understanding what she was up against, because her experience is a perfect example of how that feeling of excitement about something new can so easily morph into total overwhelm. I mean, this quote pretty much says it all, doesn't it? It wasn't just one specific problem. It was that feeling of being completely swamped by everything, all at once. And that feeling, wow, it can be absolutely paralyzing. And when you actually break down her worries, you see these are not small things, right? We're talking about making new friends, keeping up with classes, finding time to work, and trying to have some kind of social life. These are the huge pillars of starting a new life chapter. So really, it's no wonder she felt so anxious trying to juggle all of that. And this right here, this is the real core of the problem. She was trapped in that classic cycle of overthinking. Just pouring all her energy into stressing about things that were, well, totally outside of her control. It's like spinning your wheels in the mud, a mental trap that just drains you without getting you anywhere. Okay, so the big question is, how did she start to break free from that? Well, it all started by building an internal toolkit, basically a set of mental tools to change her own thought patterns. Let's take a look at exactly how she did it. Her whole approach really boils down to these three super powerful steps. And what's key here is that it wasn't about trying to get rid of worry completely, because let's be real, that's impossible. It was about changing her relationship with her thoughts. So let's unpack what each of these steps actually means. So step one is crucial. Before you can change anything, you've got to be aware of it in the first place, right? For Emma, the real game changer was simply learning to recognize that moment when she started spiraling. Just that small act of noticing creates this little pocket of space between you and the anxiety. And this is such a great practical example of what that looks like. You see, challenging the narrative, it's not about pretending everything's perfect. It's about taking a catastrophic thought, like, I'm never going to make any friends, and reframing it, turning it into something more realistic and hopeful. Like, you know what? I will meet new people and make friends, but it'll happen in its own time. It seems like a tiny shift in language, but it creates a massive shift in perspective. Okay, so changing your thoughts is all the internal work, the stuff that happens inside your head. But Emma quickly realized she needed to back that up with some external actions too. She had to literally, intentionally build moments of calm right into her daily life. And her action plan is just brilliant in its simplicity. This wasn't some huge, crazy life overhaul. No, it was just about consistently weaving these three practices into her life. Scheduling self-care like it's an important appointment, developing mindfulness, and, this one's key, knowing when to just change the channel and distract herself. And hey, for anyone out there who hears the word mindfulness and thinks it's some big, complicated thing, it's really not. At its core, it's just this: taking a few minutes, focusing on something simple like your own breath, and giving your mind a much-needed break from all that constant chatter. And it's so important to remember that self-care and distractions don't have to be complicated. We're talking about simple stuff, taking a bath, going for a walk, reading a book, or just reaching out to a friend. The whole goal is to consciously change the channel in your brain when it's stuck on the anxiety station. All right, so let's get to the good part, the outcome of all this consistent effort. What actually happens when you combine that internal thought work with real external calming actions? Now, this is so important to remember. This was not an overnight fix, not at all. It was through practice and honestly a lot of patience with herself that Emma developed the skills to manage her feelings instead of being managed by them. And this right here is the absolute heart of her transformation. The biggest breakthrough wasn't some fancy new technique. It was a deep, fundamental shift in her beliefs.
realizing that taking care of herself isn't selfish and that it's totally okay to ask for help when you need it. That's not a weakness, it's a strength. Which brings us to the final big takeaway. Emma's story teaches us that taking care of your mental well-being isn't a luxury. It's not something you get to after you've solved all your problems. It's the very tool that enables you to solve those problems in the first place. It is an absolute necessity. So I'll leave you with this question to reflect on. Inspired by Emma's journey, what is one small thing you can do this week to give yourself that same permission to relax? Thanks so much for joining me for this.